Shaun Morgan of Seether joining us this evening on Loudwire Nights. Well, he's joining us via the computer, and I'm totally checking out your background right now. Very cool. You got this.
Yeah, I didn't turn on these lava lamps because I think I blew some bulbs out, so I've got to do some minor maintenance. But other than that, this is where I spend most of my time.
So is this where the
Welcome.
music happens too?
Yeah, there's all the you can't see the keyboards and stuff in front of me and all the speakers and things, but this is where I write everything and kind of uh you know I lock myself away in here for hours at a time and just kind of write music, you know.
Very cool. I love seeing that. Thank you for sharing that with us.
You're welcome.
So, I love having you on the show because I know I could ask you anything and you'll answer honestly. So I'm really excited about having you back on. Thank you for your
Yeah,
time.
yeah, thank you.
Um, I want to touch on what not touring is doing to your psyche. I mean, your life, obviously, a lot of people's lives have been affected, but you
Yeah.
can't do your job.
Uh, well, honestly, it's been pretty devastating. I think for me personally, it was in the beginning. I kind of was trying to be hopeful and optimistic about everything, and for that first 15 days to slow the roll or whatever it was, what the cool little slogan was, and then it became a month, and a month in, I was like, okay, cool. This is starting to be a little bit weird now because it's now it's Groundhog Day already, and this is in March. So March of last year, we were supposed to start doing tours in May, for example. So basically we're all set to go, mentally prepared to do this and go out and leave the families and stuff behind, and just all get the rug got ripped out from underneath us. And so yeah, I mean, I'm unhappy to report that I spent the better part of the year trying to find answers at the bottom of the vodka bottle, which was not where I wanted to be. And I think as much as there was a silver lining to some of the things, like say I was home with my kid and could watch her go from this little thing that just babbled to somebody that now has a really fun sense of humor, and she's this really cool little kid. That's been, and and being with my wife for as long as I can. But having said that, when I have bad days, everybody has a bad day, and because I can't drag myself out of the slump I find myself in. So I really got to a point where I just got sick of feeling sorry for myself. Sick of feeling tired, sick of feeling sick. So I basically turned a corner when the new year came. Changed a bunch of habits that I had developed, and bad habits that I got rid of, and I'm trying to stay optimistic now. But there was a time when it came pretty much down to the line, because I just felt like the whole world was telling us we're not essential, which I think was one of the worst phrases they could have used, because it immediately dehumanizes you. But on top of that, this year doesn't look to be shaping up much better as far as going back to a touring kind of lifestyle. And not that's something that I want to return to anyway. I don't want to be out for 3 months at a time and come home for 4 days and then sort of, high five my family and then walk back out again. And when every time you come back, you feel like you have to relearn the relationships. But it's now more of a question for me this year mentally to say, okay, I can very easily slip down a very dark slope. So how do I prevent that? What are the changes I need to make for myself, and to honestly hang on to the family? Because sometimes the interpersonal relationships get really, really stressed and strained because of, some real depression and bipolar sort of disorder. Those are things that are, I think, very difficult for somebody else to watch from the outside looking in. And I don't feel like it's fair to put somebody through all of that, because it's I'll explain it. Some days I'm ready to go out and go run an errand or do a chore or whatever. And you psych yourself up. You get to the point where you're like, oh, I'm going to do this. And literally, remote start the car. This is another positive step towards leaving the house. And you get to the door, and some switch just flips, and you just say, nope, close the door, and you turn around and go back inside, because it's like this anxiety and so it's been rough. I mean, I'm happy to report I didn't end up a statistic somewhere, but because I do feel that I came pretty close to the point of no return, and I think that was a real realization for me that I needed as well, to sort of make some big changes, because it was towards the end of the year, some crazy stuff happened. It was like this stuff that I couldn't believe these incidents were happening that were just so out of left field in my life. And yeah, I kind of bottomed out, but I managed to turn around. Thank goodness, I guess. I've started cleaning some house as well, as far as people that I had around me that weren't really doing anything for me, like management, for example. We just got rid of our previous management that we had for about 4 years. And it turns out I've been managing this band now for about a month, and it's not that difficult.
Really? I didn't know
Especially,
that.
yeah, that's, I've kind of taken point on it because I have a very good relationship with my agent and my business manager and even the label. So I'm just the guy that's like, well, speak to me. Why have a middleman that isn't really, there were so many bands that managed to get through 2020 and actually do something that was positive and really productive. And we only did one live stream and maybe a couple of acoustic things. And it was
Yeah.
mostly because I think at first I was kind of resistant to the change of how the world had shifted. And I didn't know, I thought it would blow over and we'd go back to being, naively enough. I mean, I didn't realize this thing would drag out until, I'm old aged, but um, it's, yeah, I mean, I just I needed to get rid of some people that were kind of just resting on their laurels and not actively trying to find ways to give us purpose. You know what I mean? It
All
felt
of
like I'd
that.
lost my sense of purpose. And so when I figured out after a whole year of basically nothing happening, and it was always excuses and it was empty promises and it was platitudes, and I just said, well, cool. There was a breaking point where there was a final, straw for me, and yeah, we parted ways. And I think I'm much happier for it. And we've been speaking to some incredible management companies in the interim. So I think the future looks good for us, and it looks bright. Certainly, I would love to erase 2020 from my memory, but it wasn't all bad. But it at times got pretty dark.
Well, congratulations on the new gig, at
Thank
least for now.
you, manager.
And
Woo.
yeah, cheers. And totally relatable. I had to get like that. I don't know if you've heard about this book. It's called The Alcohol Experiment. So you have to like not drink for 30 days. So I did the same exact thing. Like in January, I'm like, I'm going to have liver failure. Like I need
Yeah.
to do that. So I got that book. It was really helpful. I went 30 days, which was like a big deal for me. But at any
Well,
rate,
look, and you remember there was a time when I'd completely quit drinking, and I was great.
yeah.
Life was awesome, and it was a stupid thing that, I mean, I was a much more present in everything of my daily life, and I was much more willing to participate in everything. But when I was drinking, I mean, I was drinking a lot of liquor. It was like, uh, man, like a handle of Tito's every 2 days. So I spent thousands of dollars in lockdown trying to cope. And my justification for it was, well, at least I'm not doing hard drugs, which I thankfully haven't touched in years. But it
Right.
was like, and then you'd wake up feeling like absolute arse, and you go, well, now I'm not going to be able to participate like I want to with the family today, or in general. And I kind of needed, when I realized that when it was really hurting that side of my life, then I needed to, if you can't get out of bed at 7 a.m. and you got a kid that's hitting the ground running, you need to be present. You need to be able to be a dad, and and just. But I do, yeah. I'm interested in trying. There's this thing, I don't know if you've heard about the 75-day hard thing, where it's like basically what you do is you quit drinking for 75 days, which again is it's a terrifying prospect, but it certainly has been for a while. But and then what you do is it's like this sort of, it's almost like a whole wellness thing where you do 2 45-minute workouts throughout the day. You read 10 minutes of a book that's like an inspirational book. You eat healthy, and you drink a certain amount of water. So
Yep.
it's just basically like a full-on lifestyle 180, which is interesting and cool. And so that's possibly the next thing I'm gonna undergo, because it is difficult. I mean,
When
why
are
do
you
something?
starting? What are you starting? What are you
Well,
starting?
I look, Super Bowl Sunday. I'm starting it on Monday. Because I think that I like to start things on Mondays, and the
Okay.
Super Bowl, you have to have at least have a glass of wine or two. But
You have to pop in after those 75 days, and I
okay,
want to see the results. Take like before and after pictures. But do
yeah,
workouts keep you accountable? Like if you, especially if you pay to go somewhere, which you're probably not going to do, but if you like pay for a workout, then it's like, oh, I
yeah.
have to go. I don't see you doing group classes, but still,
Well, I used to do when I was sober for like a year and a half. I used to go to CrossFit and everything, but
Yeah.
I loved it. But the problem was I spent so much time hurting. Like my knees were shot all the time, and it was like as soon as I stopped, I was walking around with knee braces like almost 24/7 because it was destroying my knees. So I've got a gym in my garage, and I've got other things that I can go on a walk with a dog for 45 minutes. It's easy as that. But
Right.
um, I really enjoyed, and I was waking up at 4:30 in the morning, and I was there at the gym by 5 a.m. For 45 minutes, come home beaten up, but you felt good about yourself. But it just wasn't my kind of, it just wasn't working for me, because I got to a point where I couldn't walk up the stairs because of my knees, and I was like, well, well, then really there's got to be something else I could be doing rather
Yeah.
than, beat my knees into submission. So
Way too much wear and tear. I'm with
yeah,
you on that. I get that completely.
and I was paying for that, and I think that kind of held me accountable. But then, then I stopped that, and we went back out on the road, and then kind of, there's the new gym opened here, and we signed up for them, and it was kind of like, yeah, it's cool, but I don't really like going to a big gym full of a bunch of people. It's never been my thing. When I was a kid, I did, but I've got pretty much everything I need in the garage, and I've got nature. I can go for, like I said, I got a big 120, 115-pound dog that likes to take me for a walk every once in a while. So,
Nice.
so yeah, there's options, but I'm trying to. I guess that's my whole thing as I'm trying to sort of make this year as oppositely better as 2020 was. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
make it 180 degrees better than 2020 sucked, and that's
I
kind
love
of
it.
where I'm headed. You know what I mean?
I love
It's an ambition. We'll see how it plays out.
Got to start somewhere. You got to have a goal.
Mhm.
Looking back, do you regret? I mean, now that you've had a little separation, you put out Parabellum, the A Studio album, in August of 2020. So, like, right
Yeah.
smack in the middle of the pandemic. Do you feel
Yeah.
like that was a good decision? I mean, I guess you'd still be sitting on it if you didn't.
Yeah, I mean, look, it was either let it sit in the vault for another potential year, which then would, to me, feel kind of dated in a sense, because it's done, it's good to go, and we, even as it was, we postponed it about 3 months because we figured, well, it was originally, I think, supposed to come out in May, and then it was moved to June as things developed, and then it was July, and then it's like, well, I mean, by August we should be good, right? I mean, that's 6 months from when everything started. We should have been good to go, and it turned out it wasn't, but I think it was important in many ways, because the way I saw it was, I'm listening to all the music that I love and know, and I'm burning through it as fast as I can. So there's, and I'm going, man, I wish there was something new from this, and I wish there was something new from that band. And so as weird as it was, and I think we were one of the first bands that actually put out an album, and then subsequently a lot of people did, as I think the value of putting out something new outweighed the weirdness of not being able to tour on it. You know what I mean? Because I still essentially, I mean, I think that it's still there to serve as something that's comforting, and it's there to serve as something that it's to help you through troubled times, let's say. And that's what that's what it's always done for me. So it kind of made sense in that world, but on the other side, it didn't make sense because it was just so weird. But for me, at the end of the day, the pros always outweighed the cons. And I said, well, if it's going to be either put something out or don't put something out, then we're going to put this one out. And with the label, obviously. And I think I'm not upset that we did it. It was weird, and we learned a lot of things. And I think that the way we promote music in the future is going to look very different to what we've done in the past. And that's just because of what's happened now. So now we've all had to sit back and look and say, okay, cool. Well, usually it's record an album, put it out, tour, run that for a year and a half, go back, rinse, repeat. And that's kind of our life cycle. So this has been interesting because I've been at home for a year. Actually, I've been home for over 2 years now, if you include the writing and recording of the album. But it's been interesting to sit back in 2020 and say, okay, cool. Well, clearly, there are ways to promote music that don't involve beating yourself up on a daily basis. You know what I mean? You can do other things. You can do interesting things. Some things are weird. Like Zoom meet and greets must be one of the most awkward things on the planet sometimes.
Weirder than this?
No, this is fine. I'm a veteran. My first Zoom, I really felt like I don't know, for want of a better term, a boomer. I was like trying to find the buttons and things, and I couldn't. My mic didn't work for the first 5 minutes, and I just couldn't. I just wasn't interested in the technology, but. So there are things you can do, like those Zooms things, and it can be cool. It's often quite awkward because it's everyone sort of thrust into this situation where, it's not, the lighting's not perhaps the best, and everyone sort of feels like, oh well, don't want to be on the, it's everyone's sort of self-esteem bubbles to the surface on those things, and you can see when everyone's like, oh, I don't want to be here, and so you kind of get used to that, but I don't know that we ever go back to get back on a bus for months. And having said that, then so what does it look like? Do we do more streaming stuff now? Do we sort of gravitate
so boring, though. I mean,
I know it's
best band on the planet. It's just, to me personally, my personal.
Well, the thing for us is, I agree with you. I love Seven Dust to Death, and I watched their most recent live stream, and I was like, this looks cool. It sounds killer, but it's not me seeing them live. You know what I mean? And I'm sitting in front of cranking the sound up, and I'm loving the songs that are coming out of the speakers, but it's just like, yeah, but it's never going to replace the actual experience. So in lieu of playing shows like that in a stream, it may be something more interesting to do. Like, acoustic streams or something where it's the whole band, kind of like we did with One Cold Night, where it's like where it sort of lends itself more to you sitting in your living room with some friends and maybe a couple, you know, a bottle of wine or whatever it is, and you chill out. Or you bolster the tour by saying, okay, we can do only 3 shows a week, for example, at 3 different drive-in movie theaters, which is going to be super weird too, because everyone you honk, you horn, you flash your lights. How do you show appreciation? It's so weird.
It's so
but
weird.
but there's going to be sort of a shift. I mean, look, if it was up to me, we'd be holograms out there, and you'd be watching holograms on stage. You know, it'd be cool. We could still be playing in a room or something. We just project ourselves. But I think that I look positively. I'd like for it to go back to a world which we all recognize and fully understand, because I think for new bands, it's going to be really, really tough to build up a following if they don't have the opportunity, right? I mean, there's some bands that will get some radio love, but it doesn't always translate necessarily unless you can see the band live. So as far as I would hate to be a brand new band right now.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the odds are really stacked against you. I wouldn't say, having said that, I wouldn't say, look, give up and don't do music. I'd say you just have to work harder.
The good news is, though, speaking of radio love, new bands, and you being just the opposite, right? Like, you have stations who, even like Loudwire nights, we usually kind of wait a while to see how songs do. But when a Seether song comes out, it's an immediate ad. And you've seen that reaction, you know, from other stations, that we all get the numbers, whatever. You just celebrated your 20th anniversary as well. So congratulations on that. That's worth noting. But I want to talk about Bruised and Bloodied, which is the new song that I'm referring to that everybody's adding. You feel comfortable sharing what the lyrics are about and what inspired tracks, right? Are you good with that, or you like to leave it vague? I know there's.
I tend to look. I tend to usually like to be on the side of you can sort of work it out for yourself, or you can take the meaning for yourself. Because years ago, I read a meaning of a song that I had taken a completely different meaning from, and I was kind of, I don't know what the feeling was. I don't know if I was disappointed, but I had in my mind, this song that got me through, let's say, a crisis or an emotional time, then turned out to just be something. I mean, and that's my fear too, is that if I explain something, then it might come across as a little bit more arbitrary than you took it to mean. You know, it's like, yeah, I wrote that about making a sandwich. I mean, but
what
yeah,
do you want to share about the song? What are you comfortable sharing about the song?
Well, look, a lot of the album, and I think the overarching theme for me about on all of the music and the sort of undercurrent for all of it really boils down to, and I think we've talked about this before, but it's really because I don't indulge or engage in any kind of social media at all on my own personal level. I can see it for what it is, and I can see it for how it changes people and how it affects people's mental, health, honestly. And I've just experienced it. I have a 19-year-old daughter in South Africa, and she's been having a rough time. And I think a lot of it has to do with social media. And I think a lot of it was because she grew up in an age where it was very important to be seen and liked and thumbs up and whatever the hell else they do, because it gave you some sort of sense of your own importance necessarily, but maybe that you were worth something at all. And I think that's, you see it, you see when you go watch a family eating dinner and the kid's on a tablet and the mom's on the phone and the dad's sitting there like, looks like he wants to, bury his head in a bucket. It's just like the whole idea, the whole concept of communication, it seems to be slipping away. And unless it's yelling at somebody on a platform where you'll never come face to face. And I think Mike Tyson said it best, and it's a paraphrase, but he's like, people have grown up with this bravado that they get, I'm saying it differently, but he basically said, look, because of social media, you don't know that if you said this to my face, you get a slap. You know what I mean? It's like there's no real repercussion for saying horrible things or sometimes really, really heinous things. And you on top of it, and it was weird because the album was written and the lyrics were written in 2019, and then it sort of became almost more relevant in 2020, which was bizarre because it shouldn't have. I was hoping it would go the other way.
No.
But lyrically, it's all about, I'm looking at from the outside looking in and saying everything's kind of screwed. You know what I mean? And unless we acknowledge that there's this massive addiction that's in front of all of our faces, and I'm guilty of it too. Like if I'm having a bad day, I throw on YouTube, and the next thing I know, it's like 6 hours later, and I haven't learned a damn thing. But I've seen a guy, build a guitar, and I've seen a guy race a car or whatever the hell. So, but I didn't gain anything from it. So there's another day wasted, basically. And it's so easy to do because I think algorithmically they've programmed it so that we spend as much time as possible engaged in the stupid screen.
Oh, they have. And there's a documentary on it on Netflix. It's so good.
Yeah. And I saw that after I'd been talking about this stuff, and I was like, well, see, somebody agrees with me. Yeah. And so for me, it's been, I think in the start of it, it was maybe a gradual decline in social interactivity. But it seems like it's more and more becoming, people don't even really, I think it's ultimately just to become, people don't even talk to each other anymore. It's going to become, oh yeah, well, and so I've actually gone back to calling people instead of texting them, because I'm like, hey, let's just talk, because it's easier to get my point across, or rather than sit here and tap away and then have to deal with my ham fingers trying to get the letters that I'm supposed to go for, but it's like, I just want to sort of a return. And I was even considering getting rid of my phone so I could just call. And if you wanted to email me, I could check my emails once or twice a day. I don't need them coming in all the time. I know for other people, it's nice to have that instant kind of response time or whatever. But I really want to take it to a place where, and for my kid, my youngest daughter, I really want her to be, not to be exposed to any of this at any time, obviously soon. I mean, she's on her tablet every once in a while. When she's having dinner or whatever, she likes to watch, people open toys or whatever. It's like this. I should have done that in 2020. I should have started a channel where I go to Walmart or Target and I buy $10 worth of these little surprise things and go hee hee hee, and just open them up and go, this is what Mr. Monkey's doing.
Isn't there like a 10-year-old kid who's like a millionaire, and that's
there's
what
one? Yeah, he's I think he's worth like 30 million. His name's Ryan. And he's got a whole section at Target that he's built it up over the years, but kid's got it made, man. Yeah. And so yeah, sorry, it's long-winded, but the whole social media thing and what that causes, the depression, the suicides, the rise of both of those, and again, not helping that the 2020 was so bizarre. It just sort of escalated everything and elevated everything. And I'm sort of trying to sound the alarm that there's a rise of intolerance and a rise of the inability to disagree with somebody gracefully and politely, and then say, cool, let's talk about something else. When I was a kid growing up, it was like my dad always joked, you never talk about politics or religion or how much money you make, I guess, if you go to a party. When you meet somebody for the first time or you have a conversation, there's other things you can talk about. And it just seems like and I was guilty of it too. I got swallowed up in all of this, anything I could find to keep me busy and not thinking about how much life sucked. So whether it was YouTube, whether it was vodka, whether it was the political world, whether it was everything, I was consumed by all of it. And I was just really unhappy. I mean, I've stopped all of it. Well, maybe some YouTube. I mean, I will be honest, but for the most part, exactly. but for the most part, I found that I was making myself unhappy with the things that I thought were helping me cope. And so it's kind of like a really weird double-edged sword. It's like, okay, yes, I think this is helping, but really it's not, because now I need more of this and I need more of this. And so I'm glad I had the revelation. It took me, I had to bottom out, which is unfortunate, but at least I can bottom out and then turn myself around and not then wallow and or stay at that level.
I laugh so hard knowing how you feel about social media, because we have talked about it on a number of occasions. I just like skimmed Seether's Twitter really quick to see if there was anything I was missing. And I see like Seether just joined TikTok, and I laughed. And I'm like, yeah, I bet Shaun Morgan has never even seen a TikTok video.
Dude, I don't even know how to work it. I did get a very excited email about a week ago from the label saying, hey, the TikTok has now partnered up with bands, and I guess now TikTok is actually going to be monetizing music or whatever it is. You know what I mean? So I guess you got to leap on that platform, because, but I feel weird and creepy invading a teenage social app and like, hey, buy our music. But we'll see. It is hilarious. I've never used it. I probably never will be the one to film or take the TikToks, to be honest.
Oh, I know that. I'm very confident you will not be that person.
Well, it's just weird to say that. It's like even to say that sentence to me was just felt so alien. Like, I'm gonna make TikToks. But yeah, that's the other thing I must say as well, because it does sound hypocritical if I don't sort of qualify my statement and say I think social media can serve a purpose, and it can get information out, and you can update people on where the band's at, and you can create excitement about music, and it certainly there's a positive slant to it. But for the most part, the way it's like, if you give somebody a ton of power, they can either or they can be evil. And it seems like basically what's happened is where social media may have started at a place where it had all of the best intentions. It's human nature has pushed it very far to the other side, where it's like people enjoy being mad about things, and they enjoy saying gotcha, or they enjoy reaching out and touching somebody and pissing that person off because of a couple of words. And I just don't. It doesn't have any appeal to me. So I had Twitter. Geez, when it came out like 12 or 13 years ago, I had it for about 2 months, and I got myself in so much trouble that I just said, okay, well, this is not for me, because I don't have a thick enough skin not to take the bait. I don't censor myself. Geez, in this day and age, I would have been canceled 1,000 times because I'm not particularly politically correct. I'm not, I don't spend every day of my life wondering about who I'm going to upset just in general upset, because I'm not out here to criticize people or judge people. I'm just living my life, and I'm trying to get through it one day at a time. And so I don't think that what I'm doing for breakfast is more important than anybody else's, or, hey, check out these new sneaks I got. I don't care what you've got, man. You know what I mean? It's like, and I've probably said it before as well, but there's some comedian who said, that's my favorite thing when I always think of it. And I almost think it's 100% true. Let's say 1,000 years from now, somebody opens up a time capsule and they go, Jesus, these people all thought they were super important. Every single person thought that their opinion and their thoughts and their fake Instagram lifestyle was amazing. And it's kind of like, there's a new documentary on HBO that just came out that I want to watch, where I think it's like fake. It's something to do with Instagram, and the guy takes 3 people and he tries to boost their profiles, and it's just using bots, and he's buying views, and that's kind of what everyone's doing, because you just spend $1,000, I guess, and you can get 1 million views on YouTube if you wanted to. So I'm interested to see it, because there were 2 guys and a girl, and the girl ended up continuing, and she built up quite a large following. And the 2 guys, one of the guys talked about how stressful it was trying to pretend to be something he wasn't. And that's what a lot of Instagram is. And it takes a certain kind of mindset, because if you want to be an influencer, if that's a word you use as something you hope to be in the future, I feel really sorry for you. But the one guy bows out, as from what I could tell. He bowed out because he's like, I can't be fake, man. He's like, I don't want to do this. So he's got 3,000 followers, and he's happy. He's like, he uses it for fun things, and sure, his mental health has certainly improved. But the girl did really well, and she's an actress, and so it helps her. And she said after a certain amount of after a certain level of followers, then she started getting phone calls for casting calls, which
Right.
so it can be a tool, I guess, if you really want to use it for good. Yeah. But I think for the most part, social media is just a cesspool, man. And again, we have to be part of it, because we can't exist in such a digital world and say, well, we're just going to mail out our information to you guys, via USPS, and I hope we'll see you at the show. But having said that, I recognize the good in it, but I think for the most part, it's just not very good. So that's what the lyrics are about.
Okay, that was a nice short story. Speaking of cancel culture, this has just been the biggest story of the month, rock news wise. So I'm gonna just throw it out there. What do you think about the Manson situation? I'm sure you're familiar. And do you think his career's over?
Look, there's like this propensity for people to jump on something, and the court of public opinion is, I think, dangerous. Is Marilyn Manson a weird dude? Yes. I've met him, and he's bizarre, and it's not something that I would be surprised by, but I reserve judgment in all of these kinds of things, because it could happen to anybody in this day and age. You know what I mean? It's like, there are some real creepy people out there, and there are some that are not. But some of the things that I've heard and seen, it doesn't I mean, it aligns with the personality that I was exposed to, but it doesn't mean that that's fact. You know what I mean? There's also the other side of that is hell hath no fury, like a woman scorned. And I don't know if after a decade you can still be considered scorned. But it's like the Johnny Depp Amber Heard thing. Everybody jumped all over down Johnny Depp's throat, and it turned out, his finger was cut off. He was the one who was getting supposedly physically abused. If you look at the court documentation, and neither one was a saint. So it's difficult. I mean, I think actors are weirdos. I think musicians are weirder. I think that everyone's got issues, and I think they, I've for a brief period of time, I was dating a girl who was in that sort of Hollywood circle, and there was some people that you would have seen in movies and TV and stuff that we were around, but it was just kind of wasn't my scene. And they are, they're just weirdos. They are really weird people. And I think the people that I met that were actors were almost sort of painfully socially crippled because they always played a character. So when you meet them, they're like, hey, like they didn't know how to present themselves because they live more often than not in somebody else's body or somebody else's mind. Yeah. So as far as Manson goes, look, I will when there's evidence presented, then I can make a judgment on that. I mean, I'm a big fan of the guy. Should he have been dropped? I think with some more investigation, if it was true, sure. But the whole point of the society we live in is if somebody can't just come out and say something about you and then suddenly your life ends. You have to prove these things. There's the burden of proof shouldn't be on the person that's been accused to prove their innocence. You should first bring, okay, here's photos, I feel like, and this is probably super unpopular opinion amongst some people, but I don't care because, whatever. Yeah. And that's fine. I'm allowed to have my opinion. You're allowed to have yours, and, go ahead and try and cancel me, I guess. But I think that further down the line, what I do know about us as a society is, we tend to forget very quickly and move on and cannibalize the next thing as fast as possible. And that again is because of this, the mass hysteria and the herd mentality of social media. And if it comes out that he was super heinous, then I think he's done. But if it comes out that, no, he just said some weird stuff, then, I mean, you look at Armie Hammer. That dude sounds super weird. If you've seen the things that he sent to that one.
He wants to eat a girl's rib? Like, who?
Yeah, and you go, and so you go, well, I mean, that's super creepy, but I don't know if he's, look, he hasn't done it. He said weird stuff. You know what I mean? It's like,
no, I got it.
And I guess Manson's different, but do I want to go to a dinner date with or a cocktail party with Armie Hammer? No, thank you. I don't want to have him
barbecue. Come on.
Yeah, every time he looks over at you, he's like thinking about which part of you he wants to snack on. I that's a little bit too much for me. So again, I reserve all my judgment as far as Manson goes. Like I said, I've met him one time. He's a strange guy, but he's always been a strange guy, and I think that's kind of that persona is a lot of him. So really, I'll wait until any evidence comes out. And again, I if it did happen, I feel very, very bad for the women that are saying it, and then he deserves every punishment he gets, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't have any good or ill will towards somebody unless they harm somebody else, and that's when I make a decision about whether or not I like you. If you harm women, children, anybody else, then I think you're a crappy human being. So of
course. All right, we'll wrap on this because I've taken up a lot of your time, and it'll be wrapping on a positive note. I know you got together with your bandmates for the first time to shoot the Bruised and Bloodied videos. So what was that like? What did you miss most about them? And you know how like everybody has annoying habits? I mean, it's we're all human. We all have. Did they become less annoying, those little habits, because you were just able to physically be next to them?
You know what? I couldn't think of. Look, there's some habits. Yes, for now that I think a little bit longer, there's some that I actually have to laugh inwardly and shake my head at because they're just silly. But I see Corey quite often because we often collaborate on stuff, and he'll come up here and hang out for a couple of days, and he goes back. He's only about 3 hours away from here. But Johnny and Dale, I see less. And that was the first time we'd been in a room together because I think we did the live stream somewhere around August-ish, maybe end of August, because it was trying to sort of coincide with the album. Mm-hmm. And that was weird, and it was cool, but we felt so much pressure. It was like, we have to perform, and it's the stream, and we haven't been in a room for so long. How's this going to sound? And then when we got to do the video, you're just miming, right? And you're just having fun. but it felt so good just to even pretend to play. Like, yeah, this is like what it was like in the old days. And it wasn't a very long shoot. I think the whole thing took us about 2 or 3 hours because we had to wait for nightfall, and it was weird. Like everyone around us was wearing masks, and we had to have these tests done when we got there to make sure we didn't have antibodies and all this kind of stuff. And it's just kind of, so you put that aside. We get in this room, and there's one guy with a camera filming us, and it was like the good old days, and it was this real sort of hit of endorphins, and it just felt so good to be in the room with those guys. And they hung out they all stay at my house every time they come up, and we got to hang out for like 3 days, and then we all sort of part ways. And after a certain amount of time has gone by, you don't realize how important that interaction is. Like, I have a lot of friends that live all over the country and some around the world, and I never really get to, pat them on the back or look at them face to face and have a conversation. And when it's been so many months, when we first got together for the stream, that was the first time we all realized, holy cow, we haven't seen each other in 6 months. This is like, it's almost like, are you real? It's like, but that when you're all shooting and you're hanging out and everyone's laughing and having a good time. I don't have many friends that live near me. I don't have many people that I hang out with at all, except for my girls, obviously. But so to have that sort of camaraderie again was really great. And both those times was just because, as much as sometimes when you've been out on the road for 2 years together and it's about time to go home and you start going, well, I don't like you so much anymore right now anyway. It's the exact opposite of that feeling. And it's you're on a high for at least a week afterwards because you just had this big old hit. And yeah, hopefully we'll do it because I know we're looking at a new single in a few months, so we're gonna have to do it again at some point. I say like it's a chore, but I'm looking forward to it.
Well, you were on that animated video kick for a moment, so it was nice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was better than doing like film yourself at home looking really sad and then pan the camera. I was like, yeah, okay, everyone's doing that, so let's do something different. And our label was, they were quite proactive with that, and I thought that would be more interesting and certainly more entertaining. Have more of like an Adult Swim kind of cartoon to watch rather than all of us really milking the situation for what it is. Like filters on our faces and stuff. I was like, yeah, no, we'll just do animation.
Awesome. Shaun, thank you as always for your time. I appreciate it. The new song, well, it's Bruised and Bloodied. I call it Parabellum because you once told me it was okay if I just called the album Parabellum, but
I do it. I do the same.
Okay,
Parabellum. I don't go through the whole
studio album. It's out there. I know everybody knows how to find everything. So Shaun, until next time.
Cool. Thank you. Good seeing you.